Hello YouTube, today I'm going to bring you a card type review, and the type of card I've chosen to review today is the dinosaur type. When you think of dinosaurs, you think of big, powerful creatures, and so for a lot of the dinosaur type cards in the game have a high attack and a relatively low defense, and their basic ability is I'm gonna run you over and there's nothing you can do about it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has kind of neglected this type, and they have only ever produced one pure dinosaur archetype, and that is the Jirax. But the problem with the Jirac archetype was they never released any support for it other than monsters. They never released one magic or trap card that was specific to that archetype, so it had vast limitations of only using generic support cards and the limited basic dinosaur support cards that Konami released from time to time. I'm going to take you on a little trip through dinosaurs throughout the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Starting from the beginning, and we'll start with basic dinosaur cards. In the beginning, Konami didn't do as much archetype as they do today, and so they just released generic cards of different types, and they released dinosaur monsters, but they were few and far between, and a lot of them never had effects that really worked off each other, so you couldn't really build dinosaurs as a deck in any form other than a beatdown type of deck. And that all changed when they released the Jirac archetype. Jiracs, even though they are not very strong, they have good effects, and some of them still see play today. Particularly Guaiba. Guaiba's effect is when he destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can summon another one, another Jirac with 1700 or less attack from your deck, and it can't attack that turn. But this became relevant with the release of Dalka and Logia, because you'll go Guaiba, attack for another Guaiba, overlay into Logia and Dalka, which you all know are very powerful cards. Other than that, Jiracs as their own type are not very powerful because they don't have a lot of support other than there is a dinosaur Rhoda called Fossil Dig, and they have their own called the Haunted, and it's called Fossil Excavation. There are a few other generic dinosaur support cards, but none of them are very good. And the next archetype that Konami released is not a true dinosaur-only archetype. It's Evols. It does have dinosaurs in it, but the whole theory behind Evols is you start with a reptile, i.e. Westlow. It evolves into a dinosaur using one of their magic cards. All the Evosaurs get their effects when they are summoned by the reptiles. And then once you have the Evosaurs, you go into the dragons, which are Logia, Dalka, and Salda. And they're your boss monsters, but it's not a true dinosaur archetype. It's an archetype that's why they're called Evols, because they evolve from reptiles to dinosaurs to dragons. They are a pretty powerful archetype, but Konami did not give them that one card that they need to make them tier 1. They're about a tier 2 deck. In my opinion, they need a card that, when it's special summoned by the effect of an evil tile monster, destroys a monster on the field. They have back row removal, they have special summoning effects, they have attack boosts, and they have a search that gets activated when summoned by an Evo tile. But they need the monster destruction to get rid of problems. But they just don't have that, and Konami probably is not going to release anything else for this archetype. So they're kind of at a standstill as far as they can go. I'm going to talk to you about dinosaur boss monsters. Only 4 extra deck cards have been released in the TCG that are dinosaurs that I am aware of. You have the 3 Jirac Synchro monsters and Granosaurus. Jirac Velociraptor gains attack and defense equal to the attack of monsters that were used for its Synchro Summon, and when it attacks a defense position monster that is face down, it automatically destroys it without flipping the card or doing damage calculation. Jirac Giganoto gains attack and defense times 200 for each Jirac monster in your graveyard, and also gives a 200 attack boost for each monster in your graveyard to every other Jirac you control. So he's a very powerful monster and pretty easy to get out in that deck. And then you have Jirac Meteor, which is your Black Rose Dragon on crack. When he's Synchro Summoned, he destroys all cards on the field, and then you're allowed to special summon a tuner from your graveyard. And he's a 28/2000, and then the only XYZ dinosaur that we currently have available in the TCG is Granosaurus. He just has 2000 attack, 1900 defense, and when he destroys opponent's monster by battle, he burns your opponent for 1000. There are 2 more dinosaur type XYZ monsters that are in the OCG. One's a fire and one's a frost monster, I believe. They're both rank 6s. I don't know if they're being released anytime soon or if they will be released at all over here. But they do have some potential to be played in the Evil deck, because they do have a rank 6 version of that deck. But I don't know if they'll see much play at all, and I do not know their summoning requirements, if they're generic rank 6s or if they are dinosaur only monsters, which is the case with Logia and Dulka, making them not as splashable and limiting their power. Now I'm going to talk to you about dinosaur cards in the meta today. The only real meta dinosaur move in the entire game is brought to you courtesy of this furry little bunny. You summon him, use his effect, as you all know, get rid of him, and then you summon 2 vanillas. They have to be the same one. I just threw out 2 just because. And then you overlay those vanillas for your first turn Logia or Dulka, which is a very powerful play, but it's only played in one deck, and it brought some usefulness to some old cards that never saw any play. I've always loved dinosaurs, and I wish Konami would release more support for them, but I see that as unlikely, as they're kind of all over the place in terms of their effects, attributes, and the way they function. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll release something new, but you can only keep your fingers crossed that they'll do something cool for this type. That's all I have for you guys today. Rate, comment, subscribe. Thank you for listening. You all have a good day.